Good morning, everyone. This is Esoteric Ramblings. I'm Jesse Arnold, and today I'm bringing you my reviews on Loki, Episode 5, Journey into Mystery. Hello, everyone. Good morning. Welcome back to Esoteric Ramblings. This is my review of Loki, Episode 5, Journey into Mystery. I'll try to do a little bit up front and give you a warning for spoilers in a few minutes with a little card here. So, yeah. So, Episode 4, I will say this, spoiler warning for previous episodes. So if you've not watched the previous episodes of Loki, I will talk about them, not in depth. But anyway, spoiler warnings for previous episodes. I will give you a card for warnings for this episode if you have not already watched it. So Episode 4 ends with both Loki and Mobius being pruned with the little staff prod rods they had there at the TVA. And it's a very dramatic episode. We learn that the Timekeepers are just animatronics, which makes the whole intro scene when Loki's getting inducted into the TVA and asked if he is in any way part a robot a little more interesting or ominous or however you want to describe it. It's just an interesting more tidbit that the people who were supposedly in charge of everything were actually, in fact, robots themselves. I think so. They get deleted, pruned, and we realize in the post-credit scene in Episode 4, you see Loki get woken up, and he's still alive, and he's in a world where he's met by 4 other versions of himself. We've got the classic Loki, played by Richard Grant, who was in, I think, Allegiant General something or other in Rise of Skywalker. There's Kid Loki, Alligator Loki, and they call him Boastful Loki. I didn't catch if there was a bigger name for him in this episode. A Loki with kind of post-apocalyptic looking gear and like a hammer made out of, it looked like engine parts or something, I don't know. So that's where this episode picks up with them. And I think, again, I know some people are complaining about Episode 3, but I really enjoyed the dynamic between Loki and Sylvie in that episode, and getting the time to get to know her, because we're bringing her hard into this story, whereas Loki, we've had over 10 years of movies with him and Tom Hiddleston to get to know his character and everything. They tried to really make you connect with this character in one episode, and I really enjoy that. I really enjoy the pacing on these shows, and I think the art style and the direction and the visuals of everything about this is absolutely fantastic. The music score is great. I don't always pick up on it, but I know sometimes they'll return to cues from other movies and shows to pick up on the themes. I believe when he wakes up in the end of Episode 4 and you see the 4 Lokis looking at him, it's similar shots to when the Avengers confront him after Hulk has smashed him in Avengers Tower or Stark Tower in the original Avengers movie. And I didn't catch it, but apparently that's the music is a riff back to the original theme from that moment. I just don't always pick up on musical cues as quick as other people do. So anyway, Episode 5, Journey into Mystery, which I love that they used the title. Journey into Mystery is, of course, the comic book series where Thor was originally introduced, and a lot of that Asgard and cosmic stuff was done in those series. So that was really cool to see that title this week. And so we deal with Loki confronting more variants of himself, and the fallout of what's happening with Sylvie and Ravonna at the TVA. So I guess at this point, I'll go ahead and give you a spoiler warning. If you don't want to know what happens in this week's episode, stop watching now, or be warned that you're going to get some spoilers for what happens in this episode. The Sylvie and I haven't rewatched it since, and I've slept a couple times and have done a lot of other things since I watched this, so I might be a little fuzzy on exactly what happens. But it turns into this whole confrontation with Sylvie and Ravonna in the TVA about what's going on. and it ultimately culminates with Sylvie. It looks like she's about ready to prune Ravonna, which I don't know. I feel like there's definitely more with her. They get Miss Minutes involved, so the little clock shows up and is like doing she's kind of like a virtual assistant on your phone or your computer, like helping pull up files and stalling for time and all this stuff. So there's definitely some really deep connection between Miss Minutes and Ravonna, which makes me think all the more that Ravonna is the one who's actually behind all of this, or at least maybe the pawn of whoever is at the top, and it's not actually the timekeepers. That was just a ruse to keep the machine working of the TVA. And it turns into this confrontation, and Sylvie actually self-prunes herself and disappears. Now, I can't remember if they said this specifically or if it was just in that moment. I guess everyone who gets pruned gets sent to the end of time. And it's this planet or this space where all these different things are landing, and that's where Loki is and the other Lokis. And there's this giant cloud monster, which I do not know this, but someone pointed out that was used in the comics at some point and is related to another Marvel character, which we have not officially met yet, at least not by name. That is the character of Kang. And there's actually a building that looks like Stark/Avengers Tower in the background, which I've seen some photos of. It actually says Kang, Q-E-N-G, Kang, on the side of the building, which again is another reference to Kang the Conqueror, or an alias of one of his alter egos. So it feels like they're setting up stuff for Kang, which we know he's coming at some point in the Marvel Universe. So yeah, I don't know if we'll see him in this series or not, or if it'll be like a last moment tease or like the final end credit scene or something for the last episode. But yeah, so things are all starting to tie together. So Sylvie shows up here, and she actually finds, I can't remember how they all pulled together, but she and Mobius get together, and Loki gets confronted by a whole host of other Lokis in this underground lair. That's where you see the President Loki, who is not the same Tom Hiddleston Loki that we've, been following. So you've got two Tom Hiddleston. So it was nice to see all these different versions of Loki that weren't Tom Hiddleston, and then at least have one moment, or at least one scene, where two of them exist in the same time. And I think, based on the action in this episode, Alligator Loki might be my favorite Loki, with Tom Hiddleston being right after that. Yeah, Alligator Loki in this episode is really great. I won't spoil any specific moments, but keep watch for what he does. There are lots of Easter eggs in this episode, and I'll get to those. But so the Lokis escape. They're betrayed by their own kind, trying to take over this world at the end of time. And there's this giant cloud monster that is what I wish the monster on Lost would have been. It was really cool. And I think they call it Alioth or Iloth or something like that. And so they decide, well, if that's the thing that accesses the end of time and who's actually in charge of things, let's go there. Let's go through that to the next place. So they come up with this plan to go after it, and you get some really nice moments between Loki and Sylvie again, as they're reunited and Mobius is reunited with them, and they hatch this plan to go off there and get to the bottom of this. So I have a lot of excitement for what the final episode is going to be, and all the possible places it could go. I had this huge theory I was working on, because you see that symbol, that kind of diamond shaped with the letters, or the lines in the TVA timekeeper's room. It looks very similar to the rune for O that they use in the O for the Loki. And I had this whole theory I was working on about why they chose that symbol in there and all of this stuff, which I gave up on because it would have been a waste of time, and it didn't play out in anything in this episode. All that to say that maybe another version of Loki is behind all of this, and it's just Loki one-upping himself all the time, since they're changing people's memories in the TVA. Who knows? But yeah, I really enjoyed this episode. Some of the great Easter eggs. You got to see Mjolnir as we cut down as they go into the sub-basement lair of the other Lokis. There's a Mjolnir buried in the ground, and just below that you see this jar or this container with someone trying to jump and catch it. And I didn't make it out when I first watched it. I had to rewind and check it again. Is Throg. So Throg exists in the MCU, which makes me completely happy. And it's just so cool to see that. We see Thanos' chopper from the comic books. It's this yellow, the little bug-shaped helicopter that Thanos rides in the comic books, which is completely ridiculous looking, with just Thanos painted on the side, the name. We see that. We see what seems to be an oversized helmet or head of Yellow Jacket sitting in the rubble of this world. Like I said, there's a Stark Tower, which wasn't actually a Stark Tower. It's this Kang Tower. There was a statue I noticed that had like this veiled fabric over it, and I couldn't quite place what that was until I saw someone else point out that it is it looks like a statue or monument to the Living Tribunal, which is another cosmic entity from the comics, which we got a reference to in, I believe it was Doctor Strange. It was Doctor Strange or something involving Doctor Strange when they were talking about all these different things. Could be wrong about where that reference was in the MCU, but there was a reference to it already. There's a couple other things that I'm drawing a blank on at the moment, but yeah, it was just cool to see all these Easter eggs littered in this place at the end of time, and a fun way for Marvel to include some of the aspects from the comic books that they've never been able to include in the actual movies, just because of the ridiculousness of like the Thanos chopper and things like that. So I do love that some of these shows, and in some ways we've gotten to see. I mean, they did it with Captain America in the first Avenger. He's in his classic comic style costume when he's doing his USO tour and like his Bond tour in the movie. We've gotten to see Wanda and Vision in versions of their classic comic book look. We've gotten to see a version of the Loki classic comic book look in this show. Even though I know they're not officially part of the MCU anymore at this point, the Netflix shows we got to see Luke Cage and Iron Fist in their classic costumes or versions of their classic costumes. Even Jessica Jones and her, was it Prism? Or whatever it was, her blue and white outfit. Or whoever that was. Yeah. Anyway, so it's just cool to see them working all these little details from the comics into the actual movies. Even if I'm not a huge knowledge base for the actual comic book stuff, I can appreciate when I do see it and catch the things on there. So it's just always fun to see the effort they put into making these things for the fans. So that's it for my review for Loki for this week. I'm going to be signing off here to do my review for the Bad Batch for this week's episode 11, so feel free to tune in for that. Both will be, like all my videos, I try to post them around 3 o'clock on the days I post. Monday is Monday Madness. It'll either be a movie review or a toy haul. Wednesday is comic book rundown. And Friday are currently Bad Batch and Loki reviews. I do have a special one coming where I did a unboxing of some new figures I found yesterday, Thursday. So that will be coming. I don't know when. That'll just be up randomly over the next day or so. And I am going to do my Monday Madness this week will be for Black Widow, which I will be watching tonight. I'm very excited to watch that. So that's it for this review. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time. Stay safe, stay cool, stay refreshed, hydrated, all that stuff. It is hot out there. And as always, ramble on.